Alright, hello and welcome back to another deck profile, and today I'm for high. Oh god damn it, but yeah, so, I think everyone knows, but if you don't, Skyfang became for hire, and if you know me, you know that I hate names like Totally Awesome and stuff, so you must know that I think that this is the greatest name change in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Oh my god, I love it. It's so fucking good. And, okay, you know what? We're also, because I'm not running it, because it's not that good, but there's a card called Training for Hire for all your training needs, and the Dragon Airship became the Flying Fortress. I fucking love it. Also, small note, so in problem-solving card text, which is basically kind of the thing that standardizes all card texts, normally be equal to the number of, in quotations, archetype monsters. But for hire, it's, take Lafari here, equal to the number of monsters for hire. So they actually swapped two words around and fucked problem-solving card text to make a pun on card text. It's fucking fantastic. But anyway, so let's get into the actual deck itself. Now, the deck is interesting because it's a whole bunch of monsters of all different types and attributes. A few of them share the same attributes here, as you see Wiz and Helmer are both water, and we can see that the level 2s here are both beast, but we have Beast Wind, we have Aqua Water, Beast Earth, Beast Warrior Dark, Reptile Fire, Spellcaster Water, Dragon Light. The attributes and typing is all over the place, which, although it's a cool concept, it very much limits the deck in you can't play things like Allure of Darkness, or you can't tanky for all these, even though a lot of them could reasonably be Beast Warriors. They're all different levels, so you can't play level consistency, and it basically makes it that you can't play any consistency cards that have to deal with types or attributes or levels. And that does really hinder the deck's consistency, because it does have some good consistency cards, but there's no way to kind of get to them. There's no allure to get to them. There's no trade-in to get to them. So it's definitely hindered in that direction. Plus, it works in the same way as your Senjus, where they all have an effect except the level 5 and higher ones. Just special summon another one from hand, it's an activated effect, so if they just kind of hit your first summon, or effect tailor that or something, you can't get your board out, you can't get your big ones, which are your kind of disruption effects going. So it has a bit of a Yosenju type feel and flaw there, although if it isn't stopped, it's very easy to put 5 monsters on the board and overwhelm your opponent. It's also weird because it has some stun cards up here, like Wiz and Lafaro, which are negations that don't destroy, sadly. But it has some cards down here like Donpa, which pop a card, and Blava, which gains attack, so the deck also doesn't have a clear defensive or offensive direction, and this is where consistency cards would really come in, is because it can either go first or second, but you have no way to really get the cards you need for going first or going second. And some going first hand, you'll open your offensive cards, and some going second hand, you'll open your defensive cards, and it just has a lot of flaws of that nature. But again, the good things, it is very easy to swarm the board. It's a kind of new and cool, interesting idea, and overall, it's not the worst thing we've ever seen. And kind of the way that the deck plays, and I've seen a lot of people running it, is you kind of want to set up with some stall cards and some things like that, some hand traps, some back row, your negation effects, to get through one turn, and then just go ahead and swarm the board going into your second turn, and try to kill your opponent or overwhelm them there. There are some other ideas I've had as well. For a while, I was trying to run a few more revival spells and trigger Dompa's effect on your opponent's turn as well, which is to pop a face-up card if another one's special summoned, but it falls a little short there, and again, there's no consistent way to set that up. And also, one thing I left up is they all have the effect to special summon another one, and all their effects trigger when another for hire monster is special summoned, which again is why that normal summon and that normal summon not being stopped is so important, is because it starts off the chain reaction of all your effects. It also, there are some cards you can run to kind of mitigate that normal summon. Going into your next turn, you have Reborn and Soul Charge, and you also have Reasoning for turn 1, so you can very vaguely play around that, but again, it's just not something that you can really handle in this deck. But anyway, let's go ahead and actually get into the cards here. Now, the big ones, the level 5s and higher, also actually trigger their effects on special summon instead of when another one is special summoned. So, I said Lafarl, but Raphael here, champion for hire. He's your big boy, the boss monster of the deck, 2800. If he was like 3000, it'd be better, but we can deal. But if he is special summoned, you can excavate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of monsters for hire you control with different names except himself, and if you do, add one of them to your hand. Also shuffle the rest back into your deck. So he's a themed Pot of Duality, which is very good because he gets cards in hand, which is very important for his next effect. Now, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can discard one card for hire, negate the activation, and that is a hard, or they're both hard once per turns. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't destroy, which is definitely suboptimal. If you hit something in hand, it stays in hand. If you're trying to clear something off board, you can't with his effect. So it is a little suboptimal there. There are obviously some times where not destroying is better, but 75% of the time, at least it is better. So he's a bit lackluster in that department, but his add to hand is definitely very good. You can add, pretty much any card that's in the top, 2 or 3 of your deck generally. So that is a pretty good effect there. But again, you can out-resource yourself very hard in this deck because to get going, you have to put monsters on board just because of the way they trigger their effects. So usual setup, you would say summon a Beat, you'd special summon another one, special summon a Lafarl, and then you get to add cards, but you still have to have cards in hand to negate something, and you already put 3 monsters on board, so you only have 3 cards in hand, and then if you have back row, you want to set those, and it's very hard to get out-resourced. But Lafarl's counterpart here, we have Wiz. Now, Wiz is instead a 2800 defense, but not 2200 attack, so she's not the exact opposite stats, which I wish she was, but her effect on summon is a lot more suboptimal. She gives you 500 life points for every other monster for hire, which is just really subpar, and instead of negating a monster effect, she discards to negate spell and trap effects. There are a lot of times where I'd want to go for her instead, but I end up going for Rafal here just because you need to get those cards to hand to speed your deck up to prepare for the going off next turn. So again, she's good, but I don't want to run her at more than 2 because most times I'm relying on our big boy there. But moving on, we have 2 copies of Bravo. He is just simply a 500 boost for all your for hire monsters when another one is special summoned. The best thing I use him for is going into turn 2 to put damage on board, which can be up to a 2500 bonus for all your monsters total. But he also can chain block fairly well, so if you summon a Rafal on, his effect will trigger on summon, Bravo's effect will trigger on, Bravo's effect will trigger on summon as well, and you can use him as 2, which obviously then they can't ogre the Rafal or anything like that, or strike it, which is pretty good. We have Seal, which when another one is special summoned, you can add one from your grave back to your hand, which is definitely pretty good going into turn 2, grab back the stuff you discarded, you can then special that stuff, trigger other effects. So he is essentially kind of like a very easy way to put 2 bodies on board, 3 counting the one you'd have to special to trigger his effect, I suppose. But we have the best card in the deck, we have Beat. Now when another one is special summoned, he searches for any monster for hire from your deck, and why that's amazing is because you obviously summon him, you special one more from hand, then you have another one in hand to trigger the effect of the one you just specialed, which is generally you're searching a Rafal off that, so you special him, you activate the other effect, you add a card to your hand from the top 2, so he is basically the starter of your deck. And he is searchable by Rhoda, but that's at 1, and again, you can't really draw into him with anything else but desires because the deck is entirely devoid of type and attribute consistency cards. So you pretty much just have to hope and pray that you open one of your 4 copies of Beat. But to try and draw into him, we have 3 copies of Helmer. He is a discard 1 card, a for hire card, to draw another card. He works very well with Beat and Seal off here. Obviously, you can grab back a card you discarded, then special that card and kind of do some cool things there. But again, it's all a little hindered by the fact they have to keep specialing and all that. But then we have 2 copies of Dampa and 2 copies of Recon. Dampa pops a face-up card, and Recon pops a face-down card. If you choose to go for the build where you try to resolve Dampa on your opponent's turn, obviously you want to max him out to 3, but I kind of gave up on that and cut him down to 2. For the hand traps, we run the kind of more casual deck package, which is 4 hand traps, 2 and 2, 2 Ash and 2 Ogre, just a very Overall, well-rounded hand trap lineup there, albeit a small package. 3 Desires because it's our only draw card besides the 1 Upstart. 1 Rota just to search out Beat. 1 Reasoning because we do have a lot of different levels and it can trigger their effects and work past a normal summon. 1 Book of Moon just because I'm starting to throw Upstart and Book of Moon in every deck because I just really like Book right now. Even though it doesn't hit links, you can hit the stuff they're going to go into with a link. You can hit stuff under that goes into a link zone so they can't use that zone. You can hit something they summon that isn't a link monster in the extra monster zone. This card is definitely still very good. 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Soul Charge, 3 Mayhem for hire, which is simply a back to the front for higher monsters, and then my usual solemn package of 2 Strike, a Judgment, and a Warning. Moving on to the extra deck, it's nothing special, although we do get to play Ronin Raccoon, which is pretty nifty, and the most broken card of 2018, Sky Cavalry. Never forget. Never forget. Hey. Oh, I love it so much. But we have this card, which isn't out yet, but it's the only defensive, or it's the only disruptive rank 3 in the game, which would make this deck a lot better, because with your starting play, you usually end on like a Helmer and a Beat and a Rafal, which they're level 3, so if you could put them into anything disruptive, it would give it just a little bit more, and he's not spectacular, but I'm kind of choosing to throw him in there anyway. But if not him, you could run Grand Pulse, or I guess one of those like 4 rank 3s that can defend itself, because we have a lot of those for some reason. 1 Break Sword, MVP of the extra deck, Castel and Tornado Dragon, Draco Sack, and Hope Harbinger. A Linkuriboh, which was only in there for Eater of Millions, and a Nagirsu, which was only in there for Linkuriboh and Eater of Millions. So I didn't notice that, but I was playing 3 Eater of Millions for a while because he can help you work past the normal summon. You can, special him. They have to kind of work around him, and then your normal summon can pretty much go off, and he's just, basically a free summon, and he lets you go to Linkuriboh and Nagirsu, which are both pretty good cards. So these should just be other things. You can just run whatever. This is another extra deck that's not super strict on anything. But Eater of Millions is definitely just obviously a very good card in general, and again, him giving you access to both of those is pretty good as well. But continuing on with the links, we have Underclock Taker, the 2 Nightmares, Decode Talker, the Nagirsu that you can still technically make in here, and 1 Big Boy Borreload. But anyway, let's go. Actually, I guess I'll go over the side deck a bit more. If you're going for the Revival build, again, throwing in like, the back to the front, you can also run Dragon Shrine for, an easier referral. You can run Tenki to search out Seal, because Seal is pretty good, but again, it just feels a little weird running Tenki just to search 1 of your monsters, and I wouldn't want to run it at 3 because he's not like that great, and at that point you could just max out on some other for higher monsters. Econ again kind of fits into the more Revival kind of focus build, because you can tribute a monster, which gets it engraved, which then you can summon it back to trigger the Dompa effect on your opponent's turn and take one of your opponent's monsters. So I do kind of like it. It also doesn't. It's worse technically than Mind Control going into turn 2, because you can't. You're giving something up, and you obviously can't just like you can turn it into a Link 2, but again, you're tributing a monster to do it. But it can still attack, so you could just take your opponent's big monster and then kill them with it, which has come up before. So it's not as much worse than Mind Control than you'd think on the surface, because it's less restrictive to the monster you take. And then obviously just back to the front, and Mirror Force I was playing for a bit too, but I just decided to go for the hand traps over that, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of hand traps now. But anyway, now let's go ahead and get into the replays for hire. So starting off our first replay here, this is pretty much one that's just more of an ideal setup, and this is kind of what you're looking for, and that's a Beat, a Rafal. It would be better if we had 1 more for higher monster, so that we could get 1 more on field to, increase our chances of drawing something good off of our big boy here. But this is still pretty good. We have 2 disruption cards. These could be Solemns, or they could be Ashes or Ogres or anything like that. And we have discard fodder for the Rafal down here as well. So we'll start off with Beat. We'll summon Rafal. We'll chain block him. Since he's our big one, we'll search a Seal for next turn, and we'll end up drawing 1 card, which will just be another copy of Rafal there. And he's playing Cyber, so he's just going to start doing some stuff there. We could have just stopped him early, but I was kind of waiting to get the most value out of things. So I was waiting for him to go into a big link and then hit it with the back row. He'll, again, keep going off there. He'll go into a Disciple. We'll negate that since he tributes for cost. He'll use World Legacy Inheritor. He'll go into a big link, and we'll strike that again. But again, if that was Ash, I don't know if we could have hit anything with Ash there, but if it was Ogre, we could have Ogred some stuff. So it's not necessarily the Solemns, but just any form of disruption there. And then he'll just go one-time passcode. And here's where it gets pretty ideal as well, because you can go beat into Seal, which can search a Bravo. You summon Bravo. Seal will grab one back from the grave. Bravo will special on the one he brought back from the grave. And you can see we just swarmed the board very heavily there and are able to just go ahead and kill him there, especially with the 2500 boost. So pretty much that's like the ideal setup of the deck, is you stop your opponent and then on the next turn just drop a furry load in their face. Because apparently that's my catchphrase now. Getting into this one, this is actually one card I forgot to put in the side deck, which is Foolish Burial. Again, I think this is when I was playing back to the front, so more revival spells. But it's actually still pretty good with Seal and makes triggering him a little bit easier with you not having to open Helmer. So it's still not a bad one of overall, especially with Seal and especially with Mayhem for hire. So it's not like a brick or anything. And I actually might throw one back in, replacing maybe like the Upstart or something. But we'll go ahead and roll this one here. So we'll start with Beat. Obviously, we'll special Seal. Beat will grab a Helmer. We'll Foolish a Dompa just to grab for next turn. So we'll summon Helmer. Go ahead and do that. Helmer will discard the Wiz, draw a card, and Rafal will reveal 3. I believe we'll add the Judgment here because Judgment. And we have discard fodder and a Judgment and some plays getting ready for next turn, especially with the Seal on field there. He's going to start going off here with Sam's. He's playing some interesting choices, like he's playing the combo specifically together. He'll play right into Rafal, so we'll just negate the Invoker since he takes up extra Monster Zone. We'll use the Judgment on the Isolde because Isolde is pretty ridiculous. And then he'll summon Exodius here, which I guess it got him a body on board, but if he could have gone off with the Isolde, he would have had the Golden Bamboo Sword. He obviously could have searched the other one, especially the 6 Sam. He would have Gateway. So we definitely hit the choke point there. We'll draw for our turn. We'll get into another Seal. We'll special the Dompa, trigger Seal and Beat and Helmer. So we'll actually draw a Reborn, add a Fallback, and a Bravo for more attack. We'll go into Break Sword just to open some space. We'll pop his card. We'll summon another one. And this is all while still having Monster Reborn in hand and drawing into another Desires. And he'll scoop there, but again, as you can see, maybe if we would have went into a Link instead, we could have linked 2 of them up and then used Reborn and just kept going off from there. The deck does have its problems, but it can hit very hard if you get it set up right. And for our final one, we're up against that new weird build of Rockets that's just a whole bunch of like traps and Lilith and this Mech Lord guy and stuff that Cap G showed off that everyone's playing that just like searches Jar of Avarice. I think it's really subpar, to be honest. I definitely think you could just run Chaos Dragons and combo off in combination with the Rockets and do a lot better than this, to be honest. But getting into things here, we'll go ahead, we'll start off with Recon, which will actually get hit with a Transience, and he hit our normal summon, which is correct to do in this deck, unless there's like a specific choke point you know your opponent might go for. But we'll actually go ahead and Ogre the Sky Blaster here because that decreases the number of tokens by 2. He'll Squib Draw here and just crash the Link Spider, which again is correct because it gets a for hire off our board, plus he can float, and then he has Heavy Storm Duster and Solemn Warning set, so he'll just Solemn Renewal summon. Again, he just stopped us from going off. And the only kind of like caveat with that is it is correct to hit this deck's normal summon because you just can't do anything past that most turns if you can actually push for damage and hurt them, which he can't really do and hasn't been doing just because of the nature of the deck and the hand he drew. So he could have been waiting for me to summon all the way to Rafal and then stopping that, so I didn't have all these cards left in hand still, even though I haven't done anything. So we'll go ahead and Sky Blaster one more time. He'll go into a Skull Dread because people love to be boring in this game. He'll put some stuff back. He'll special Lilith and push for some damage and then do a search. But again, like they always reveal like Storming Jar of Avarice and like some other just suboptimal card. It's just not that good. But he'll have Impermanence and Storm Duster and Jar. So going into here, the first thing we do, we'll activate that. And I believe he'll go into Jar of Avarice just to kind of try to draw into a hand trap here, which isn't terrible. I believe he actually does. Yeah, he draws into an Ash. But we'll special Recon back because he'll be able to pop some of those face downs, which he will get hit with the impermanence, but again, it wasn't our normal summon, so we can keep playing. So we'll summon Dampa. Dampa will be ogred, but we can still summon the Rufal, which will be boosted by the Skull Dread, and we'll actually chain block with our negated effect there. And we'll grab another Mayhem for Hire to hand and be able to swing over the Skull Dread there. I'll set the Mayhem for Hire, which will get Heavy Storm Duster, but he has an Ash Blossom. Alright, it's not doing much. As you can see, he was stopping us, but he didn't have enough to actually kill, so he just let us slowly take control over the duel. And we'll set the God card there, Book of Moon, and actually just negate the effect of the Rocket in Grave. We'll set up with a Supply Squad and Ash Blossom, but we'll get Desires. We'll get into an Ogre and a Helmer here, so we have more negation there. We'll let him draw off Supply Squad again. It really doesn't matter. He'll have Boot Sector, but we'll Ogre that, so he can't even summon one, because again, it really doesn't look like he's doing much else here. And we'll actually get into Rhoda, which will get us into Beat, which will be enough for a game there with Helmer, letting us search Bravo, special him. We'll go into Breaksword, pop our back row and his, sadly not using Book of Moon, but still drawing into it there. And we'll pop that Fred Reboot and swing for game there. But anyway, I pretty much went pretty in-depth with this, and I think covered everything I want to cover, so I don't have much to say at the end here. I've noticed a lot of people running 3 copies of Bravo, which I know you need names in this deck, but I don't really get that because he is just, you know, a card for going into turn 2, although he can chain block, but I definitely like 2 more than that. Same thing with Wiz. She's good, but again, a lot of times you just have to go for a fall, so I really only like to see her at 2. And then this, actually this is the one I see the most, is 2 and 2 of these, which I definitely think in this type of build is pretty correct. And then we're just, there are a lot of others. There's one that does burn damage, one that banishes from Grave. There's some other stuff, but again, we're just kind of maxing out on the most consistent and most effective ones here instead of running some of those. But anyway, usual plugs, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, all down in the description. I am going to say one thing about the Patreon here. If you've ever noticed, one of the most annoying things on YouTube is you'll be watching a video, and midway through the video, like 3 or 4 times, even in like a 10-minute video, you'll get like 2 or 3 ad breaks, which really just like disrupts the viewing experience, and I think is kind of really shitty. And I actually don't do those because they do really disrupt the viewing experience, and they actually, like, I think they just make watching videos much less enjoyable. So I'm actually missing out on a lot of ad revenue from that by not putting those in there, because again, that's 2 or 3 more ad breaks in every video. So I do want to keep those out. So if you have some extra, just even like $1 a month to support me on Patreon, that'd be greatly appreciated, because just that $1 a month is more I'd be making from those probably anyway at this low sub count. So if you have a little extra, it'd be very greatly appreciated, because I am holding back on those for you guys here. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.